Live from Milwaukee, day before Trump officially gives his address. And we got so many different people to talk to, including Jason Miyares, who is a big University of Tennessee football fan, even though he's the Attorney General of Virginia. We may get into that a bit, but you've been suing the NCAA. I love everything about this. It's good to see you in person.
Great.
But let's start here. Virginia, you know the state well. Big success in 2021 with Glenn Youngkin getting elected. Is it in play in your mind? What kind of polling are you saying? Can Trump and now J.D. Vance really put Biden on the proverbial ropes by getting a win or even being super competitive in Virginia in about 3.5 months?
Yeah, I think it is. I've seen at least 3 different polls that have shown that they are either tied or even Trump is up slightly in Virginia. And I best can encapsulate, I was at the grocery store, believe it or not. I go out to the parking lot, and there's a bumper sticker in a car that simply said, "Make groceries affordable again."
It's good.
And that is literally what we're seeing, not just in Virginia, but nationwide. It's hard to live under Joe Biden's America. And I actually looked this up this morning. If you look at what is, since Joe Biden's taken office, I'm going to read these numbers for your audience. Groceries up 21%. Dining out up 21%. The cost of baby food, 30%. Pet food, 22%. Rent, 20%. Electricity, close to 30%. Natural gas, 30%. Used cars, the cost of used cars up over 20%. Airfare, 30%. Real average weekly wages, down negative 4%.
Yeah.
So you're making less take-home pay because you have the inflation, as President Reagan said, is a tax on the poor. It's hard to live again. So that is impacting Virginia. I talked to somebody at the Trump campaign literally last night who said, believe it or not, New Jersey is now getting into play. And so what you've seen is every day, the forgotten man, as they say. The people that get up every day, they go to work, they try to play by the rules, and every day they see it is hard to live under Joe Biden. And when you spend money like Argentina, you're going to get inflation like Argentina. Argentina actually wised up and elected a new president. But I think that's why Virginia's at play. And you're seeing a certain level of energy and really a sense of we have weakness abroad, weakness at home. We need a change. And so I think Virginia's going to come down to the wire.
What are some of the successful moves that Governor Youngkin has done in your state to help put us in this position where we can have a entirely serious conversation about Virginia being a state that Donald Trump could win when, if you go back not very far, it felt more and more to people like it was going purple to blue.
Right.
So it's going in the other direction. How did Governor Youngkin and you as State Attorney General, how did you get it going there?
Well, you know, I call it the Virginia Renaissance. We took over, we had a far-left liberal monopoly, and Virginia was an example of what happens when the left gets control. They got power for only 2 years. They had a criminal-first, victim-last mindset. We had a murder rate that was at the time a 20-year high. We were struggling economically. Governor Youngkin came in, a record investment in law enforcement. He's going to stand with police instead of against it. He gave over $5 billion in tax relief. Virginia just got named the best state in the country to do business. And a lot of that is what Governor Youngkin has done, where he says, hey, we're going to be open for business. We're actually going to, unleash the greatest job-creating engine the world has ever seen, which is the American entrepreneur. And so I think as a result, that has trickled down to Virginians. And Governor Youngkin has fantastic approval ratings in Virginia. Virginians see that, and they think, wow, you're right, Republican governance works.
Yeah.
And I think that has actually had an impact this year as well.
You know the state of Virginia well. For people out there who haven't spent time in Virginia, you got Northern Virginia, where Democrats try to run up the margin.
Right.
And then you have basically the rest of Virginia, which is a very different state, right? The Washington suburbs compared to the rest of the state.
Northern Virginia is southern D.C., really.
Basically. So what does the map look like? If you're, thinking out 3.5 months, you drive down, I would imagine, the margin in Northern Virginia. But how many people out there, when you guys won, where did you look at and say, this is the region where you can kind of get the bellwether sense for how Virginia is going?
Okay, so a couple key areas, not to get all political science professor on you, but yeah, in Northern Virginia, you want to get between 40 to 42% of the vote, because down ballot, downstate, you're going to win huge margins. You're going to want to get over 70% of the vote in Southwest Virginia, right there, right near the East Tennessee, where I grew up. You got the Shenandoah Valley, deep red. Southside Virginia, deep red. The two key areas are going to be the areas of the Richmond suburbs. Chesterfield and Rico, Hanover are going to be key. And then my home area where I grew up in, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, has the highest concentration of active duty military of any metropolitan area in the country. So very, very patriotic.
A lot of Clay and Buck listeners there, just so
Yes.
you know.
Oh,
For sure,
I know.
yeah.
Clay, I'm a big fan. Every time I'm on, I got some high school friends that always text me as soon as I'm off, so I expect to hear from them. So in the Hampton Roads area, they are big Clay and Buck fans, and they're a patriotic area as well. And so Hampton Roads is they call the swing area of a swing state. And I got to tell you, you get around in that area, you see a lot of Trump flags, a lot of Trump flotillas, and a lot of Trump yard signs popping up everywhere. So I think it's going to be key. That's where it's going to be fought out.
Buck has found this out, and he sees it everywhere, all over the RNC. I trust college football fans more than like normal people, right?
It's like he belongs to a secret society.
Yeah, and people will come up to me and they'll talk about whatever's going on with the RNC, but they really want to dive in and say, hey, what about the Big Ten expanding? What about the SEC? As a kid growing up, what was your favorite part of University of Tennessee football and SEC football at large? And do you trust, like me, college football fans more just innately, no matter who they root for, than anybody else?
There is a sense of passion and culture
Yeah.
that comes with college football, and it is multi-generational.
That's right.
I can still remember as a kid growing up seeing, Reggie White playing.
Yeah.
And those heroes in the 80s. I remember the Sugar Bowl win against Miami, 35-10, and the next day at school, everybody was wearing the How Sweet It Is.
35-7.
Right.
Your boys are going to be
35-7.
upset with you.
Yeah,
But we
it
had
is.
Lee Greenwood,
Yes.
who sang "God Bless the USA" right there at halftime. And my dad was in that crowd.
Are you serious?
And
Well, I
he
watched
says
it on
that's-
TV.
that-
Yeah.
I was watching it on TV too. But he says that's one of his favorite sports moments of his life.
Magical. I'm so old school that for me it's weird that Arkansas is in the SEC,
Yeah,
right?
I
Remember
know.
when they expanded?
92.
92. So, but what you have with college football, and this is what I think it is one of the last true meritocracy we've seen in American society is football, particularly I think at the collegiate level. It is the idea that we don't care what your background is. You have to earn it.
Yep.
No one's going to give it to you. And as a Tennessee fan, I have a begrudging respect for Nick Saban. But that Nick Saban speech he gave at the ESPYs, I think, was encapsulated college football at its best. The idea of also it's teamwork. You cannot be successful as a team just being great individually. You could be the best running back in the world. You don't have a good O-line, you're not going to go anywhere. And so it is great to see that. And then the generations, the fact that Arch Manning's son then became Peyton Manning, who then replaced him, and his father's even a bigger icon. Those moments in college football you can't replace, and so it's special. You talk to Georgia fans, they still talk about Herschel Walker and some of the runs that he did. And so that's kind of multi-generational legacies. It brings families together. I'm sure you know this. You go to a college football game, it is a family outing. And somebody asked me this earlier on a radio show this morning. They asked me, what's it like at the convention? And I said, joy. And isn't that college sports, too? It's joy. It is a lot of agony. But gosh, there's such joy when you win. It's amazing.
Which college game should I make Clay take me to this year?
Tennessee, Alabama,
In Knoxville.
in Knoxville this year.
Crimson Tide are in trouble. They're losing.
Whoa!
They're going to lose.
Talking some.
I've been on.
Wow.
I'm already on this. Alabama's going down in Knoxville. 2 out of 3. Saban era's over. Kalen DeBoer's recruiting well. SEC media days are going on right now. Buck was like, I don't even know
All
what
right,
that
Clay.
is.
Who's in the SEC title game then?
Did you see Saban pick Georgia and Texas? He didn't even pick his own team. I think it will be Georgia and Tennessee.
Okay, keeping my fingers crossed. That would be amazing.
Look, we got coming up next here. You were just talking about getting to meet him.
He's just flown
Superman
in.
himself just flew in. Dean Cain going to join us here in a sec. Jason, keep killing it.
Thank you.
You also sued the NCAA and kicked their ass there, by the way, for people who've been paying attention. Awesome to see you in person. We look forward to helping you out down the line.
Thanks.
Look, I got to tell you, the war in Israel, it's continued. Started 9 months ago, October 7th, still going today. Missile alerts, calls to take cover. For more than 40 years, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has been on the ground in Israel. Within hours of the war starting, every day since, the IFCJ has been feeding the hungry, protecting the vulnerable. Attacks continue in the north and south, but there are resilient survivors who bravely share their stories in a series the Fellowship calls Faces of Iron. One of them, man by the name of Danny. On October 7th, Danny, who volunteers with his local fire department, had to witness the home of his daughter and son-in-law burning down without being able to save them or their home. He and others could not get to the equipment needed to save them. Christians like you support Israel through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. It's this support that helps these survivors remain steadfast and strong. To hear more stories like this and to show your support for Israel, visit supportifcj.org.